When Billy's dog refused to give birth, he knew he had to take action. He immediately called the local veterinarian, who didn't know what he encountered. The vet had never seen anything like this before. The dog refused to give birth. What could be the cause? When the vet made an ultrasound, he realized what was going on. Billy wasn't sure what to think. The vet didn't speak a word to them when he took his dog away. What was going on? Could this maybe have something to do with the weird behavior he experienced during the pregnancy? Or was there something else? The vet returns to the waiting room 10 minutes later without his pregnant dog. Before he can even question where she was, the vet informed him that he had just called the police and that they were on their way. Billy was heartbroken and in disbelief. When the vet called the police, they told him that they would come his way immediately. This dog needed special help from more than just a vet. This dog needed surgery, as there was obviously something strange going on in its stomach. It might even be a life or death situation. When the police finally arrived, they helped the vet to sedate the now almost lifeless pregnant dog. But the police did not only help the vet, they also came to Billy. "Sir, we need you to come with us. It is important." Billy was shell-shocked. What did he do wrong? Billy answered questions about himself and the dog that he had owned since his youth. When he was done with answering all the questions, he heard disbelief from the surgery room. "I can't believe this," said the vet. But what did the vet find inside the dog that he was so incredibly surprised by? To be able to understand the situation, Billy explained to the vet how his dog got pregnant. It all started almost a year ago. Billy and his family really wanted a second dog, and since he loved his dog, whose name was Alicia, so much he decided to make sure Alicia could give birth to a new dog, but that was not easy. They had gone through a lot of hardships. Billy, Erica, and their 4-year-old son, Tim, lived together in a small town. Recently in the Anderson home, there had been a lot of sadness. And although the family had just moved into a new town and didn't know much about the town, there was another reason for this sadness. The young family had recently lost a dear member, one that had been a part of the family for 11 years. Their family pet, Rio, was not merely a pet, but a long-standing member of the family. You see, Rio was the first friend Billy made when he ran away from home at 16. Billy's home situation had been less than pleasant. His parents were verbally and emotionally abusive, constantly monitoring his actions to the point where he was restricted from making friends. Billy often fantasized about a world outside of the grasp of his parents. So much so that once he got out, the first thing he did was buy a dog. For the first 2 years, it was Billy and Rio, best friends forever. The young man struggled to find his ground when he was on his own, but luckily, having a loyal friend through it all eased the pain. Rio was there for all of the monumental moments in Billy's life, including his first date with Erica and the birth of their newest family member. Tim. Rio was a special part of their family life, and just as he had been there for Billy, he was also very close to their young son, Tim. Now that Rio was gone, it was clear that things were no longer the same. The family was unmistakably sad, but they had an inkling as to how they would fix it. "Let's get another dog." Even as he said it, Billy had to admit he wasn't so sure about his plan. Erica shook her head. She knew it was far too soon to be getting a new pet. Rio had meant a lot to both her husband and Tim, so much so that she was a little surprised he had brought replacing the dog up so soon. However, there was a dog-shaped hole in their life that needed filling. Erica and Billy talked about it a few more times. Erica was concerned that Billy was jumping into things a bit too quickly, and Billy was doing his best to convince his wife that he was ready for the change. Eventually, Billy won Erica over, and the two decided they would get a dog. But the hurdles had just begun. The first hurdle the family faced was in choosing the next breed they would have. Next, the family found themselves searching the web for a licensed breeder, as Tim really wanted a puppy. The couple was unfamiliar with the breeding world and felt the internet would offer the most options. After much searching, they found 2 breeders. The couple decided to make it a weekend trip and scheduled visits with both breeders. However, their trip proved to be a little disappointing for the family. The first breeder gave off the wrong vibe from the start. Although the puppies were cute, and Tim and Erica had a nice time playing with them, Billy couldn't fight the weird feeling being at the location gave him. First, it appeared that the dogs lived in uncomfortable areas. Secondly, the cost seemed questionable too. The young family didn't have much luck with the second shop either. While this breeder was cleaner and seemed to take better care of its puppies, the couple was greeted with some sad news on arrival. They had sold the very last 2 puppies online. Now, Erica and Billy were stumped. The entire family was sad once more. They felt disheartened that their entire trip had turned out to be nothing but a bust. Billy and Erica decide it would be best to get home and figure out a new plan. However, 15 minutes into their drive and the couple spotted an animal shelter. Would this be destiny? Erica was ecstatic. She had begun to lose hope and was feeling a little dismayed when she spotted the small shelter on the side of the road. Turning to Billy, she pleads with him to stop and poke in. Something told her they would find what they were looking for. The young family decided that it couldn't hurt to at least check it out. The young couple was in a neighbouring small city and didn't expect to find much of a selection. They were proven right. The shelter attendant explained they only had 5 dogs in their keep and only 2 of them were puppies. However, one dog in particular immediately caught their eye. It was one of the puppies. And as little Tim exclaimed, it was clear that the little boy had the same thought as his mother. However, the most fascinating thing about the animal was its eyes. They were starling, dark brown eyes that neither of them had ever seen on a dog. The dog was timid and smiled while keeping its distance. It was unlike the other dogs that danced and hopped in hopes of getting some attention. Instead, the little puppy stared on high alert at the door. The employee explained that the dog had been left at their door just the night before and was still acquainting itself with the space. More so, since it was so new and had been left with no identification, they knew very little about the puppy, other than the fact that it wasn't chipped. The Andersons wanted the puppy, but there was some hiccup. However, the employee stated that the shelter did not normally let animals go without first verifying their identity. However, it was a small town and an even smaller shelter that had not seen an adoption in many months. That fact made the employees state that they would make an exception for the young family. But would they come to regret it? The couple was overjoyed and headed in to sign the necessary paperwork. It seemed far too much like fate to let the puppy go. While Billy and Erica signed the papers, young Tim played with the new member of their family who was now slowly getting used to the young boy's advances. It took about an hour for all the paperwork to be signed and recorded. And finally, the young family was headed back home with their new family pet. Everyone was excited, most of all Tim, who had now made a new best friend. Unfortunately, this feeling would not forever for the family. After a year, the family really wanted puppies, but their dog did not seem like she was able to get pregnant. This is when Billy turned to an old friend of him. He told Billy that he would be able to get the dog pregnant in no time. Billy had his doubts, but went along. Billy was surprised. It had actually worked. Their dog was pregnant. He was overjoyed. He doubted that everything was legit about this man and his methods, so when his dog refused to give birth, he decided to take her to the local vet. This is when all the trouble started. The plan was for Billy to go alone. He would most likely be in the waiting room a while. He did not think anything of it. It would just be a regular checkup. Or was it? He would, however, soon wish that he took his family with him. When he got to the vet, it was already crazy busy at this early hour, so they had a bit of delay and he had to wait. The waiting room was also quite full as a result, and his dog was drawing a lot of attention, mainly because of his odd characteristics. All of this commotion had also caught the attention of the receptionist of the veterinarian. When she figured out what it was about, she immediately called the vet, and he had her postpone his next appointments a bit, moving Billy up. A few moments later, the vet walked into the waiting room himself, barely speaking a word, only informing Billy it was his turn and they to wait here. Billy was surprised, but also happy as he didn't think they would be helped for at least an hour. Why had he been moved up the list? The vet welcomed Billy and his Alicia. He gave Billy his word that everything would be all right with his Alicia. He just had to make an ultrasound to determine what was going on with Alicia. He told Billy not to worry. Then everything changed. While performing the ultrasound, the vet's tone changed. Slowly it went from optimistic to pessimistic. Billy noticed this, but was afraid that he would keep the vet distracted. Later, he wished he'd asked her sooner. The vet picked up Alicia, quickly inspected the terrier, and then took him into his office. Billy was confused as he expected that they would join him into the office to keep her distracted while he did some tests. That is how he remembered it from the past. Billy waited in anticipation for the vet to return, which he did 10 minutes later. But he didn't have Alicia with him. Before they can even ask any questions, the vet ushers Billy into a different room. Here he starts explaining the situation. He tells the Billy and his family, who had quickly arrived, that he has informed the police and that they will soon be here to pick up Alicia. Billy and Erica were stumped by this, and Tim started crying his eyes out, screaming that he wanted his dog back. The police officer said, "Sir, you have to come with us. We have to ask you some questions." Billy did not understand this. Why did they want to question him? He did not do anything wrong. But since he had nothing to hide, he decided to answer the questions to avoid more misery. At first, the police asked simple questions. Billy had to confirm he was actually the guy they were interviewing, and he also had to confirm that Alicia was his dog. But the next questions went more into detail, which seemed strange to Billy. Why did they want to know such things? They asked how his dog got pregnant in the first place. So Billy answered that he contacted an expert that could help him with this. He also added that he did a background check on the expert to make sure everything that he did was legal. Billy even showed his sources to the police to make sure that they knew it was legal what he did. The police understood Ben and acknowledged that it was all legal, but that they still needed some more information from him. The policeman grabbed something out of his bag that Billy did not expect. The police officer had different mugshots from potential criminals. They asked Billy if he could identify someone from the pictures. Billy was shell-shocked. After seeing a lot of pictures, he saw a familiar face. It was the face of the expert that helped him to get Alicia pregnant. But why was he a suspect? As far as Billy knew, he did nothing criminal. Billy became more and more worried. What did this man do to his dog? Did it have something to do with the fact that Felicia could not give birth properly? The police explained the situation shortly after. This man was not an expert when it came to dogs, but he also had a history of criminal medical activities. The police were already looking for him and notified vets because he tended to test new medical treatments on different kinds of animals. But what exactly did he do to Alicia? At that moment, they heard a loud noise from the surgery room. "We got it!" The police and Billy quickly went over to the surgery room to determine what was going on. Then they saw the vet with something in his hand. What in the world was this? The vet noticed two strange things on the ultrasound, and one of them was a medical chip in Alicia's belly. When the vet saw it, he knew he had to call the police, thanks to their communication. The police were looking for that chip, as it was illegally made by the expert that helped Billy. To remove the chip and trace it back to the expert, the police helped the vet with the surgery. Not only did they remove the chip, but they were also happy to help to give birth to a new little puppy, and it was not just a normal puppy. The second thing the vet noticed on the ultrasound was that this puppy was a rare specimen, which potentially could be worth loads of money. When the surgery was done and Alicia had given birth to her puppy, the vet could not believe his eyes. This was the reason they were searching for the expert. He was doing this to dogs to breed special dogs. The chip was in place to keep track of the dogs, to eventually steal the puppies from the owners to make load of money. Thanks to Billy, they managed to extract the chip without damaging it. This way, they managed to locate the expert. They did this by using the exact same device he would use to track down the dogs. He got a taste of his own medicine. The vet asked what Billy wanted to do with the puppy. He was really healthy. According to the police, Billy wasn't breaking any laws by keeping the specimen. He was also allowed to sell the dog, since he was the Lego owner. This was a really rare specimen that he'd never seen before. The vet told Billy that it was a 1 in a million chance that this would happen. This puppy could be worth loads of money, but Billy had only one thing on his mind. He wanted to keep his new puppy, that he named Murphy. After they went through all this, he knew that he and this dog had a special bond that he would never break. After everything, the police were also able to track down the expert and lock him up. So after all, Billy and his family could happily live together with their dogs.